Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is optibotimus coming with another video review. And in addition to the Iron Man Mark 44, otherwise known as the Hulkbuster, this is one that I've probably been asked to review more than any other suit. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Hot Toys MMS 300 of the Iron Man Mark 45 from the Avengers Age of Ultron. I don't know what it is about this particular suit, but just so many people constantly keep asking me to review it. So here it is, and here we go. For the package, you got that very similar die-cast sort of package. You know, the fact that you got two separate sections here, and then the upper section, you got kind of like art on the inside, and then there's a plastic kind of overlay. So like Iron Man Mark 45 is on the clear plastic on the outside of the actual artwork. Same kind of thing here with the front where it says Avengers. That's on the actual clear portion. I mean, it's hard to see that there's an actual clear portion, but you can kind of tell. You can run here side, you got a nice image of Iron Man's head, and you got his hand right there. On the back of the package, you got the various warnings and things of that nature, and then at the top is the cast and crew responsible for making them. And then, like I said, all these, you know, die-cast series figures have this section that just slides up, kind of getting it out of the way. And on the inside here, you have the very heavy-duty foam, and as you can see, it says Mark 45 there. And like I said, this is that really heavy-duty foam that they actually use to create the House Party Protocol Hall of Armor kind of thing. So really very nice. On the back here, you can see this is where his display stand and things are actually kind of stored. So you take this, so you got like basically two sections. You got this, so sliding this out, and then you can see there's the internal section. Then the display stand, the pillar, the Ultron Sentry are right in this kind of clamshell, and then it just fits here in the pack. I've talked about this before. I wish they would actually make these where that Hall of Armor thing was kind of built right into this. I mean, that would be cool to kind of have. And then you have the little foam section here that just pulls down, and all the little pieces are going to fall out. But this is the intersection here that you have all the various hands and other smaller accessories, and then obviously the figure. Obviously, for a very heavy figure, it's nice to have something very secure like this foam to kind of protect it. So packaging-wise, really very nice. It does give a fairly high-quality feel to what you're basically getting. But for the packaging, that's about it for it. So without further ado, let's get the Iron Man Mark 45 out here and see how cool it actually is. Alright guys, so here we have the Iron Man Mark 45 opened up and out of its packaging. And like with all Hot Toy figures, you do get the user guide with it. A lot of this stuff is fairly basic, but I still really think that people should go through this. These are expensive figures, and a lot of us collectors really do consider them investments, and going through this and learning what you can and can't do will really go a long way in making sure that your investment stays in pristine condition. So I definitely recommend thoroughly covering this before you really kind of put this figure through its paces. Starting off first, taking a look at his accessories, he actually does come with a fairly decent amount. A lot of them, though, are kind of standard, I guess, for an Iron Man figure, such as obviously his hands. In addition to the two closed fists that are currently on him, he also does come with a right and left repulsor blast hand. As you can see, the wrist here is on an angle so that when you actually plug this into the ball joint, the hand is in this kind of blaster sort of position, but real nice detail. You got the clear repulsor section right there. You got some nice painted detail for the joints and everything. You got this new style back of hand guard. I don't even want to say that it's a wrist guard or anything because it just kind of goes on the back of his hand. So overall pretty nice there. But then he also does come with a pair of articulated hands. And again, you got the nice joints and everything. Good detail with the clear piece here in the center. It does kind of light up. You can look through there a little bit and you can kind of see that there's that little clear piece that kind of goes through there. You can kind of see it right there. But obviously it is a straight kind of position so that it's more designed to just kind of hang out straight down when it's connected to the arm. So you're not going to get a lot of repulsor blast kind of positions with this particular hand. But this is a nice one for a variety of different poses. And then this is kind of new, but it kind of also builds on the position of the repulsor blast hand in that he's actually got this blast effect that's coming from the repulsor section. You can see it does have the angled wrist, so much like those repulsor blast ones that are positioned like this when attached to the ball joint, that's how you actually attach these ones. One thing that I will say though is that when you kind of plug this in, you do have to kind of bend it down to get
the light shining through. I mean, when you look at, I don't know how well that's, yeah, you can actually see the little orange piece in there, but you can also see that that's not really straight up. If you're going to do a blast, you're going to go like that. Not really like that, but if you go straight up like so, the light really doesn't hit that little orange section to make this whole part illuminate. The light that's on his wrist just goes in a straight line, so you don't really get a very kind of bright blast kind of coming through here. But to me, I don't know necessarily if they intend this to be used as a actual like offensive weapon, and the reason I say that is because you also do get these blast effects which go on the bottom of his feet. You see these little posts right here. These plug in and give you the kind of effect that he's flying. So I'm thinking that these are more designed to be incorporated with these to kind of give him a flying looking pose. These are like stabilizers, you know, with his repulsors, not necessarily, like I said, the offensive weapons. I guess you could still use them as that, but I think they're more designed to kind of give him a flying sort of look. Now, yes, I know the repulsor blast is the same thing as the stabilizer element. It's just a different intensity, but I think that it's more designed to kind of go along with these in terms of a flight sort of display. So that's actually pretty nice. It does still use the same hands. I don't think that those are different at all. The only thing that's different is they take out the little clear middle piece right here and they plug this in there. So basically the exact same, but they do put that on there, which is pretty nice. He also does come with a battle damaged chest piece, which detail wise looks really terrific. I mean, I love the little scorch marks that you have in there. I do like how, like, around the edges here you got, that's a little bit too close, it's a little blurry. You can see that you got a nice silver variation right along the edges to kind of give it a much more, I don't know, it looks sharper, I guess, because it's white there. I don't know, but you got the little clear piece right there for his arc reactor. But real nice detail. I love the scorching and everything on here. But one thing that does bother me about this is you got this really cool battle damage chest piece, but there is no other battle damage parts on this figure whatsoever. The figure just in general, in terms of the coloring and paint job, is actually very clean and very shiny. This is a little bit more dulled down, like I said, a little bit more scorched and obviously battle damaged. It looks really weird having this dirty of a piece on him when the rest of his body is very clean. So while I like this, I do kind of feel like this is pointless to have, because in that battle he took a lot more damage than just on his chest. So this kind of puts me off. Like, I didn't so much that I throw the thing. I mean, like I said, I still like it, but I think if you're going to include something like this, you need to throw in some other battle damage parts. I guess that's just personal preference. He also does come with a couple other kind of effect sort of things. It's very hard to see. I'm just going to hold it behind my hands here, but it's a very clear-lucent kind of pink plastic. It starts off as clear down here, and then it gets pink along the side. This is to replicate his laser beams, which are really very cool. You get two of them. He does have two sections on his forearms that you would plug these into, and I'll show how to attach all this stuff here in a little bit, but I do like these. These actually look really nice. Typically, I'm not a big fan of those kind of effect sort of things, but I don't know, mostly because, like, you know, fire is constantly moving, so like in a static look for this, it looks boring because fire is always kind of orienting in a different way and flaring out in different directions and things like that. It's like it's alive, whereas a laser beam is going to be a straight thing with no variation. You just got this nice color coming through, a very straight kind of beam look with it. I think these look really cool. I dig these, and they kind of look like lightsabers. Go pew, 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 pew. So I do like that. Now he also does come with a really nice, I'm going to get some of this stuff out of the way, very, very nice display base, which I really dig. This whole section right here can come off. You can see that it is a battle damaged and heavily ripped apart Ultron Sentry. You come around here to the bottom, real nice detail in here. Kind of, honestly, it looks like it's a little bit melted of sorts. I don't know if that's the way that it's intended to be, but the detail for it probably could be a little bit better. As it is, I mean, like the paint variation, things like that, I mean, sculpting wise it doesn't look too bad, but it doesn't have as crisp of a real look to it. Honestly, this comes across a little bit more toy-ish than anything else. So the rest of the Hot Toy stuff really doesn't, but this does come across a little bit toyish. You can see that he's got the red eye, so this is one of the drones that was actually controlled specifically by Ultron. If you remember, the ones that were just kind of doing their own thing always had blue eyes, whereas the ones that were controlled directly by Ultron had the red eye. So you do have that. This section can actually remove, it pegs in, so I mean, if you want to kind of throw that there. His head also can remove, so if you want to put that there and put the head there, I mean, you have a little bit variation in terms of your posing options. One thing that I'll say, though, is really strange is the pictures that have been on Sideshow, have been on Hot Toys, actually shows him taking the head off and holding the head in his actual arm. There's no way to do that. Not that I can tell. I mean, nothing, there's no magnet or anything. There's nowhere on here where I have no idea how they're able to grip that on here. It's really strange. Maybe you wedge it down there or something. I don't know. I don't know how they do it, but the pictures show it. I don't know how they can do it. If anybody can recreate that, please let me know, because I kind of like the idea of being able to do that. But, you know, pegging that on there does give some articulation and stuff to it, but it's just a little peg, so it just kind of rotates. But overall, fairly decent amount of detail. There's a couple little red splotches where, like, wires would be. Like I said, you can just sit that right there, which I think that looks perfectly fine. That's actually pretty cool. He also does come with this whole display stand, which is actually pretty cool in of itself. It kind of looks like steps and everything. I don't know necessarily what this is. Maybe a piece of that machine that Ultron was using to destroy the Sokovia or something. I don't know. But he also does come with a dynamic flight pillar, which, you know, you can position. And like I said, if you have these pieces that are used to make him look like he's flying around, you can use this. You can have this little guy sitting right there and having Iron Man kind of floating above him. Or if you don't want to, this can actually it just screws in. You just, we're just gonna sit here, you just take this out. Or you have another one that goes all the way down, just like though. You screw that in there as well, and it's a little crotch sort of cradle, so you can take that, position that down, and bringing this all the way down like that, you can use that as a display option. So I like that. I like the different options that they give you. I've often talked about how if they're going to give you a big stand like this, I wish they would give you the regular standard one, and they kind of sort of do that with this. You know, you don't have the flying thing, and you have a more kind of standard display that allows you to just have them stand there. It's personal preference. Like I said, unfortunately I do not have the space for these large display kind of bases anymore, so I do wish that they would give us those standard ones. But I do like the option to be able to have them fly or stand. I think that that's really cool. But for his accessories, that's about it. Now, coming to the figure himself, I don't know how many times I get asked the question, Paul, what's your favorite Hot Toy figure? Or, Paul, what's your favorite Iron Man figure? And a lot of times, my favorite Hot Toy figure is typically the newest one that I just get, because it's the newest. So it just stands out more. But honestly, for the longest time, my favorite Iron Man suit were a lot of the ones that people wouldn't necessarily think of as being an Iron Man suit. I really like the kind of off-color suits. You know, like the Python, the Midas, the Silver Centurion. You know, suits that don't necessarily have that classic kind of red and gold color usually stand out as being my personal favorites. But the Mark 45 here has won the contest. Of all the Iron Man figures from Hot Toys that I have, this is my absolute favorite. The design on it, the look of it, and all of it has been beautifully recreated by Hot Toys. This guy, it just is absolutely stunning. Starting with what they, in terms of the movie, we're doing with the Mark 42, and then going to the 43, and now here to the 45, and even with the 46. It has a much more organic kind of look to it. I don't know, you look at some of like these design elements, and like for example here in his arm, it just kind of looks more like muscle than just armor. It has a much more fluid kind of look to it. Now, like I said, that's not necessarily anything to do with Hot Toys. That's just the design that Marvel's kind of putting in place, but Hot Toys just recreated it here. And one thing that I love about Hot Toys, and I've said this before, is you really get a much better appreciation of how costumes and designs and things look when you actually, you know, get a recreation in terms of figure form. You can look at all the details and be like, wow, I never noticed that before, or I never noticed that before. I mean, all of it just comes to life with these figures, and just the overall look of this is absolutely gorgeous. I just am blown away. Now, looking at some of the accessories and how they work, you come around here to the bottom and you can see, again, great detail on the bottom here. We're going to go through and looking at all this, but I'm going to show you how to attach all these accessories and stuff. You got the little holes right on the bottom that very easily you just peg that in there. So now it's like, he's flying, just like so. So really very simple on that. With the hands, obviously, because they're all just ball joints, you just pop this off, and then you pop this on, right like so, and then you have him doing the blast effect. But again, it does, I mean, you can get it going straight out like that, I mean, turn his head, but when you light it up, you kind of, because of the way that the light is actually designed, it doesn't really shine through into this. So if you're going to position it like that to do a blast, you're not going to be able to light it up very well. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but I think that it looks pretty cool when you kind of leave it straight like that, and then maybe put, you know, these little feet things on here, just like so. So you kind of make it look like he's flying, something like that. So I like I said, I'm not 100% certain if that's what their intent was for this particular blast, or if they did intend it to look like it's a weapon. But I don't think it works very well as weapons. Now for the chest piece, getting this kind of out of the way, this section, it just pops off. But again, great attention to detail on the inside here. Great paint with the silver. You got some little black areas that are kind of in there. Just really overall very nice. And then you just take this guy, and that just pegs in there very nicely. But again, you got a very battle damage kind of look, and you can see that you have a much more matte kind of paint. This is very glossy, and the rest of the body is very glossy. So it stands out, and you can see it, like especially here when you look to the chest and then the abdomen area, very dull up here, and it doesn't look bad. It just doesn't match the rest of the overall look for it. So I'm not a very big fan of this just by itself. It looks great if you had other pieces on there, I would imagine, but just by itself, I'm not a big fan of how that actually is incorporated. Now these are actually really very cool. They actually build these little laser pieces in here. It's a little bit tough to get to, but this section right here, getting this lifted up, actually lifts from the inside of his actual forearm, and then you kind of angle that down, and it's got a little hole section in here, and then you just take this, you peg that right in there, if I can get there and lined it up properly. Well, maybe I can't. There you go. And then you put that in there, and now you have him doing the laser blast. Get this, lift this up a little, lift that up, just like so, and now you're having him doing the little laser effect, which you can't see, but I mean, that is really awesome. I really dig that, and he's got that on both sides. So you just take the other one again. He does come with a little tool, but you can use your fingernail just to kind of lift that piece up like so, then bring this in. It is a square sort of peg, so make sure that you get that position properly. And now you got the two laser blasts kind of coming out of his wrist, which is really cool. I love how they incorporated that in there. It doesn't swap out or anything. It slides up, and then when you're done, you slide it down just like that. I mean, I love that. Great design choice for that, so you're not moving parts off and everything. So in terms of the accessories, you can see they all look really very cool on him, and it allows you to really create kind of a wide variety of different poses for him. He does have the light up feature still. For the actual head, you take this piece, it slides up, you got the little switch right here, and then you move it, and boom, his eyes light up. You take that, you put that back on there. Got a nice bright light on there. I do still kind of wish they would go back to what they were doing with the magnets and stuff, where you just slide the magnet on there and actually turns the light on. On the inside here, this is a little bit tricky to get to. You kind of have to pull this part out, and it's, yeah, not easy to get to with this particular one. You just kind of wedge it, but it doesn't like coming off all the time. So let's see. All right, we're not going to mess with that one because I don't want to damage it, but you got the switch on the inside there, and then that piece lights up right there. But I mean, you guys have seen it before. With this, you got this little back section that you just plop this out like so. You got the switch here on the back, so that, and that's actually kind of recessed fairly far in there, so you have to get in there to really get that switch moved. And once you do, there you have the arc reactor, which again looks really very nice. It lights up very nicely. Batteries are always never very good on these figures, and leaving it on for any length of time will make the batteries kind of die out, and then you just put that back on there, close that up. But overall, the detail on this is terrific. Like I said, the overall organic look of it, I mean, you can kind of see it like I was talking about here in the forearms and things like that. You come around here to the chest area. This whole section here just looks a little bit more streamlined and, you know, more organic. I keep saying that, but it just has a flow to it, which looks really very, very nice. You can see even on the inside here with the thighs and everything, you got some nice painted and molded detail here. I mean, that's the actual upper section of the thigh that rotates. You got some great detail down here with some scorching on the silver sections right in there. And then again, for the actual legs, you got these lines that just give it a nice flow really to it. Come around to the back, you can see that those rib cages kind of come around here from the abdomen area. It's got some nice silver bits. You do have his little air flaps. These parts, get that lifted up right there, and then that one lifts up there. So again, get that lifted, that lifted. So he does still have the little air flap gimmick. You got some nice silver paint on the inside there, which really does come through and kind of carry over very nicely with the rest of the silver that's going through the under part of his arm and everything. Just close that up, and again, very seamless and very smooth. He does have some very minor scratches and everything on there from some damage and everything, but nowhere near, you know, what's going to be recreated in terms of a battle kind of scene. So it is, like I said, a little bit unfortunate that they gave you that, but not a lot of stuff to go along with it. Now for his articulation, the head is on a real nice ball joint, so you can rotate that around. He also does have a neck joint, but you don't get a heck of a lot of range of motion with this. It does pivot a little, and it does kind of flex, but really not a heck of a lot. You can see that on the back section, the neck is actually kind of molded in a way that kind of meshes with the actual back itself. So you don't get like real range of motion with it because it's kind of going down in this little V shape right here. So you're a little bit more limited. And I just popped the whole thing off. But I love the design of the helmet. Looks really cool too. It is a little bit different than what we're getting with some other Iron Man kind of helmets, but really does look very cool. It doesn't have a face or anything. That's a little unfortunate, but we never did really see. I don't remember, you know, Tony Stark's face in there. So I would imagine you could probably figure out a way to pop this out or something and still put his, like if you had a Tony Stark head or something, you could probably put that in there. The shoulders here do extend out, so you get a little bit of an armpit joint that rotates forward and back. It can actually pivot up and down a little bit, and then at the joint itself, it does rotate very nicely 360 degrees, and then it moves out, and you can see this piece right here actually does flex a little bit, so you can get this up and get a nice range of motion right there. Really very, very cool. It also does rotate at the upper part of the bicep area, and again, this piece here kind of moves and gets out of the way, but again, when it's down, it really nicely kind of fills in, you know, the whole arm section right there. I mean, it looks really very cool how they did that. The elbows here actually have two different joints. You got a standard joint right here, and then it also can extend, or do I already have it extended? I might already have it extended. No, maybe I don't. Let me see. Let me try this side. Or is that? Oh no, yeah, that's already bent. So there is an extra joint in here, but I do want to be careful because obviously, you know, these are delicate figures and you don't want to bend too much. But there we go. Okay, so you have that section that kind of closes the arm, but if you want to get a further range of motion, it does pull down and you get a little bit more backwards as well as forward motion, so you get a little bit more. The bend, it gives a little more than a 90-degree kind of range of motion there. So again, bringing that up, let's see, there we go, bring that up like that, and that one, yeah, this one was extended as well. So let's see, get you, there we go. So when it's just standard kind of standing there, it's always going to be on this little angle kind of thing, but extending it gives you that little bit more range of motion. He also does extend here at the upper part of the abdomen, which does allow you to rotate a little bit more, moves forward and back some, and then it collapses back down. And then it also has a cut right here that also extends, so you can get, let's see, is that, yeah, all of those are extended now, and you can see you got a little bit of a flex right here. These pieces here actually do kind of move out of the way a little bit. This one here, yeah, that one flexes forward, so you can kind of position that really a little bit more dynamically, I guess, and get a little more pivot, also more rotation in it, then putting that right back down. These little pieces here on the side, these move up. This section here also moves up, and you can move the leg about that far out, just, you know, by itself. I mean, about that far. But then you got the little butt button that when you push it, releases the hips, and then you can bring it up a lot more, so you get a much further range of motion with it. One thing that's interesting though is it doesn't have a section that actually extends down. A lot of these die-cast figures and Iron Man figures in general have that piece where the hips can actually kind of detach, just in general, not the little butt button thing, but just at the hips themselves. So that's kind of interesting that they seem to have gotten rid of that on this figure. But you push that button, like I said, you get that release for the hips that allow you to push that back, and then you push the button, slide that back up, and locks that into place. So you got those little flaps on both sides, and then you have the in and out motion and things of that nature. It does rotate at the upper part of the thigh as well, and then you can see that the hips themselves, right up at that top joint, get that out of the way, also do rotate. I'm trying to hold the whole leg together, but you can rotate that leg just by itself, and then you got that cut here that allows you to rotate that, so you get a much wider range of motion as well. So really very nice there. The knees have 2 points. You got a very heavy rotation right there, and then another one right here at the bottom that you, well, actually there's 3 joints. I'm sorry, there's 3 joints here, so you got one section. That's kind of crazy. So keeping that all in one position, I want to try and, oh, well, that's not supposed to pop out. Oh, that just tabs in there. Okay, so, oops, put that right back in there. Okay, so we got this piece right here that bends just like so, and then you got another joint. Again, I'm going to try doing that. So you got that joint, and then you got another joint right there, and then you got another one right there. So he's actually got 3 joints here at his knee, which that's pretty crazy. So nice range of motion there. You got these little flexible pieces down here on his ankle area, and then you can actually take the foot. This will pop out, and you can get a further range of motion moving it forward and back. But normally, just standing, you're going to have it collapse like that. So all that articulation that you would expect in an Iron Man figure is there. And then because it's a die-cast one, it does have a heavier duty feel to it, and you can get some really cool dynamic poses. And because of that extra durability, it really helps to kind of stabilize everything when you are manipulating those joints around. And for comparison, here you have him next to the Mark 42 and Mark 43. And you can see that the 42 and 43 still have a very armored kind of look to them, but you can see how much more refined things have gotten. I mean, this started out with, you know, a little bit more of a streamlined kind of look, and that carried over here with the Mark 43. But obviously what you're seeing is some more red coloring coming through. And then as you get to the Mark 45, that streamlined look is still consistent, but it has a little bit more of a softer, kind of organic look to them. And I really do like it. I think that the coloring works pretty good. You still have those very iconic colors, but the gold is kind of toned down a little bit more, which, you know, obviously some people didn't like that with the Mark 42 because it had a lot of gold. And then the 43 kind of brought in some more of those red colors, but still had a considerable amount of gold. The 45 here, I think, has a real good balance of the colors. And then the red itself, you can see just, it has a more vibrant color to it than the rest of them. I don't know, it just looks a lot more crisp. And then when you look at the helmet, I mean, this one's obviously the battle damage one, but this has a metallic kind of gold look to it. I love the way that the light hits that and kind of reflects and gives it a very kind of rich look to it. This guy really did turn out terrific. Hot Toys has done another amazing job of recreating the way that suit looked from the actual film. And getting this in hand, I'm able to really kind of look at all the really cool details on it and get a real true appreciation for what was actually on screen. The Mark 45 design has become my absolute favorite of the Iron Man suits. And like I said, Hot Toys nailed it. The paint detail on here looks beautiful. The vibrant color of the red and the gold really do pop. It has a very rich tone to it that just instantly catches your eye. And then the sculpted detail really does help just pull everything together. Now, as a die-cast figure, this guy is actually fairly substantial in terms of weight, but he is actually lighter than both the Mark 42 and Mark 43. Those are the exact same figures, they just have a different paint scheme. But the Mark 45, actually, like I said, is a little bit lighter than those two. I really notice it specifically in the legs. Maybe they cut back some of the die-cast that they used in it, but in doing so, it actually makes the overall stability for the figure much better. Those other figures are great, but the weight of the legs really do kind of make them a little bit floppy from time to time. But I think that this guy turned out terrific and absolutely is worth being in an Iron Man collector's display, an Avenger display, heck, just a 1/6 scaled superhero display. This guy would look great in it.
So all that being said, if this is a figure you'd like to add to your collection, he is available right now at Sideshow Collectibles. So all you have to do is click on the link down in the video description. You go to Sideshow where you can check out availability on this guy, as well as the rest of their Hot Toys and Sideshow 1/6 scale collectible figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been optibotimus. Don't forget that if you like this video, to please like and share it. Also be sure to subscribe in case you haven't already subscribed. That way you never miss a future review of mine. And as always, until next time, I'll talk to you later.